Shalom everybody, welcome back to Insights in the Parsha of the Week, Parshat Bamidbar, and also it's technically the Erev Shavuot, before Shavuot. Before we get into where we want to get into in the Parsha, we need some just introductory ideas and perspectives given to us by Rebbe Nachman in Likutey Moharan lesson 24, and by Reb Noson in his discourse on this lesson, which is Sefirat HaOmer number 4. So basically, Hashem created the world. He created the universe. And the reason given by the Kabbalists why Hashem created the world is to make his presence known. That he should become known within the concealment of this world, of this universe, of our life, where things are in a concealed format. That's why the word is called olam. The world is called olam, which is rooted in the word for ha'alama, concealment. Our goal, and to make a challenge worthwhile, our goal is from within the concealment, through emunah, to believe Hashem, to believe in his Torah, to believe everything associated with Hashem, and through that emunah to bridge and bring Hashem's presence into this world. Okay? So this is what Hashem really wants. He wants us to bridge and make that connection with Hashem. So basically what that does is it joins two opposites. Hashem, it's hard to say his essence, but his being, from our perspective, is called the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light. And we, from our perspective, we are finite beings. These are two opposites, finite and infinite. To join them is impossible according to our logic and our rationale. Because if a finite being merges with the infinite, so he disappears. It becomes also infinite. There's no more finite. And yet, Hashem wants this paradox to exist, that a finite existence can contain within it something infinite, the infinite light. So Hashem allows that to happen. Rebbe Nachman discusses, explaining how the Zohar explains this happening, is that there is a wall, technically, so to speak, between the creation and Hashem. This wall in the Kabbalah is called the Sefirat of Keter, the level which is called Keter, which translates as the crown. It's crowning Hashem, that's the idea of a crown, but at the same time it keeps away people who are not Hashem. In other words, the existence, us, our universe, it's kept away outside of the crown, and what's within the crown is, so to speak, Hashem's infinite light. So the crown, how it works, is that in order for there to be a merging of these two, the crown pushes back the finite existence, the finite beings, human beings, when running to pursue Hashem. So the Keter serves as a wall, and that wall forces the finite being, the human being, to be pushed back. And in this pushed back state, which is at first bewildered, confused, because a person is trying to connect and is being pushed back, but this pushback is really an initial stage, a preparation to receive the infinite light. This is the way the paradox joins, is that the pushback, which is what's happening, it's like a confusion, a bewilderment, yet this allows for the infinite light to come into the finite existence, but in a touching and not touching format, called by the Kabbalah mate vela mate, reaching and not reaching, touching and not touching, running forward and then being bounced back. This is the way Hashem's existence comes into the world. That's basically the test. The test is when a person experiences setbacks in his spiritual pursuit to come closer to Hashem, how he takes them. Does he take them with emunah, that this is the stage for Hashem to come into my life? Or does he say, Judaism is not for me, Yiddishkeit is not for me, Torah observance is not for me, I get pushed back like this, I'm trying to do good, they push me back, so long, I don't need you, chas v'shalom. But that's how many people unfortunately think. When the push gets to shove, they say, okay, I don't need this, I can enjoy myself in this world, if anyways, nothing is worthwhile. Which is the wrong way of thinking, of course. But this is the test where Hashem's presence is made to shine into the world. So basically, Reb Noson explains, based on this idea, that Hashem wants his light to shine into the world. The means is the Keter. And more than this, Reb Noson expounds, and Rebbe Nachman teaches, and what the Zohar teaches, is that the whole secret for the creation to continue to exist even though it's finite and it seems to be running according to the laws of nature, still the way for it to function is that there has to be I don't have to say constant, but there has to be an influx of light coming from the infinite light shining into this world, and that is what causes the sustainment and the existence of this world. There has to be that connection. It has to be. It's not like optional. For the world to exist, it has to be some type of connection to the infinite light. Here Rebbe Nachman teaches it's done by the struggling of Jews, of people who want to connect to Hashem, and being bounced back. That's what enables them to receive infinite light, not just for them, but for boosting the whole creation. Okay? But basically for this to work, Rebbe Nachman teaches the prerequisite is being besimcha, being happy, doing mitzvot with happiness. This is what allows a person, when he reaches on his personal level, wherever it is, on a low level, on a higher level of tzaddikim, wherever he's holding, when he's ready to face the Keter, he gets pushed back. And according to how happy he is in trying to serve Hashem, that's how much of a better chance he has in taking the setback in a positive vein and using it as a stepping stone to shine the infinite light. So basically, again, the idea is Hashem wants this connection of the infinite light into the finite existence, even though it's two opposites. And the mean for that is the Keter. Okay? With that said, Reb Noson goes into the concept of counting, the numbering system. A side point, he says, you see, from the way mathematics works, you see the hand of God, the presence of Hashem in mathematics. Where do you see that? In mathematics, we count up to number 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 is basically a repeat of 0, which was before 1, right? Because 10 is 1 and a 0. And then you start again. 11 is a repeat of 1, just at a higher level. But we had to go back to 1 to get the 11. And 12, you have to go back to the 2 to use the 2. It's a repetition, but on 10 levels forth. But it's a repetition. It's not like there's a special number for after 9 that doesn't have a 0 in it. There's no special number for 10 and for 11, for 12. These are using digits that were already there from 1 to 9 and repeating with them. So you have 99, 1,000, and then you have 1,999, and then 2,000, you have 1,000,000, 2,000,000. All these are using the 9 digits and always going back to 0 to start. So the idea of the 0 is always like doing a reboot to reconnect to the infinite light, which was before the creation. And then we start numbers. The numbers, existence of plurality, is only in this world, this finite existence. Singularity, before numbers. What's before 1 is the 0. That's like when only Hashem in existence. Before numbers. Okay? So in mathematics, that after 9, they go back to 0, shows that there's always reconnecting to Hashem's infinite light. His existence, whatever, his infinite light. We're always reuniting with Hashem's unity when going back to 0. 20, 30. You're going back to 0 and starting again, it's reconnecting to Hashem. Plus, Reb Noson adds, the fact that it works is that numbers go up 7, 8, 9, and then pushed back, starting again at 0, 20, or 10. You go back. That's the idea of the Keter. The Keter being the wall, pushing back to start again. Because that's how it works, like we said. When the Keter sees a person running forward to pursue godliness, to come closer to Hashem, he is pushed back. And most of the time, it's all the way back, all the way down, to start again at 0. But he's advancing, because it's not like 0 to 1. Now it's like 10 to 11, or 20, 21. There is an advance. Okay, but always you have to go back to the beginning to start, and you go higher and higher and higher, and that's what Hashem wants. That we reconnect to Hashem, like Reb Noson's wording in the Likutey Tfilot, beyeter se'et veyeter oz, with more strength and more boldness to reconnect. So this, in the mathematics, you find Hashem's presence, which is absolutely amazing. But Reb Noson wants to point out that this is the idea of numbers. Numbers is a plurality. Numbers in themselves is dangerous because numbers connote just this worldliness without God's presence, up to number 9 at least, okay? So this, Reb Noson explains, is also why it's so dangerous to count the Jewish people. When you count Jewish people, God forbid, you allow, God forbid, for magifa, for plague to enter and disaster. Why? Because by counting a Jew, and the idea of a Jew is that he serves as the connector between the creation and God. by Jews doing mitzvot. Mitzvot means on one hand a tzivui, a commandment, but mitzvah also is from the root of tzvat, which means a connector. The Jews, through their mitzvah performance, are the connectors between this world and Hashem's infinite light. That's the whole idea of all the mitzvah performances of a Jew throughout the day, is that we're the ones responsible for the whole creation to shine in the infinite light into this world through the mitzvot. We're going in and out, in and out. We have ups and downs during the days, but we're always attempting to connect by the brachot we do, by the mitzvot we do. So we're in and out. So now when, God forbid, Jews are counted, so it's like cutting them off from that connection. By counting a Jew, making a part of the plurality of the existence, the finite existence, exclusively, that's the idea of counting them, Reuven, Shimon, Mr. Goldberg, Mr. Goldstein, and this, and counting all the Jews individually, so that, God forbid, puts them under the domain of this world, with no connection to the infinite light, and leaves opening for death, God forbid, and plague and damage. So instead of that, the Torah prescribes, we don't count the Jewish people. If you want to do a census, so you want to know how many Jews there are that left Egypt, or how many Jews are after the golden calf, how many Jews now after the Mishkan was erected. So how do we count them? We count them instead by counting tzedakah, nishkalim, half shekel coins. That money goes towards the Mishkan. And every Jew gives a coin, and you count the coins, and that's how you know how many Jews there are. That's the census used. Now, that explains the idea of the census in this week's Parsha. That the counting of the Jewish people is done through what's called beka legulgolet, a coin per head. Beka is like a coin, legulgolet, per head, per skull, legulgolet. Who is counted? Only male Jews from 20 and up. Okay? So what's the idea of counting Jews number one at 20? And then the wording beka legulgolet, which is a half shekel coin. So Reb Noson also explains the age 20 in Hebrew is the letter kaf. The letter kaf is the opening letter of the word for keter. Keter starts with the letter kaf. And there's a rule in the Kabbalah that any word in the Hebrew language, the opening letter of the word contains the general characteristic of the future word. Right? Limud, lamed, learning. There's a lamed connected to the idea of learning. Okay? Keter, like we said, is the idea of the crown. The kaf is a keter. And like the Zohar is wording, and Rebbe Nachman quotes this wording in his Likutey Moharan lesson 6. Ein keter belo kaf. You can't have keter without the letter kaf. What's the idea? The kaf is curved, it's bent. The letter kaf is curved. Meaning that in order to receive the light of the keter, a person has to be bent. He has to bend himself. He has to have some type of submission in order to receive the light of the keter. So the number 20 is associated with the keter. So in the census, this week's parsha, the Jews were counted from the age of 20 up, to indicate that once they reach the age of 20, they're now, even though a Jew becomes, obligated for mitzvah at bar mitzvah, but still at age 20, it's considered a type of maturity that his mitzvot go a long way, much more than a bar mitzvah boy. It's now considered like a real serious adulthood at age 20, where a person is able to take responsibility. Proof is what the Torah says, that any Jewish soldier in the time of the army, of the time of the Torah, of the Beit HaMikdash, etc., the time of Joshua, Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, Jewish soldiers, the times of King David, King Solomon, they entered into being a soldier at age 20, not under 20, because 20 accesses the Jew to the Keter. His age allows him now to have accessibility to the Keter, and that his mitzvot and his activities have a strong, firm means to receive from the Keter, to connect to the Keter, to the infinite light. Okay? So the census was at age 20. Another wording of the donation, beka legulgolet. Beka, like we said, means a coin, and legulgolet, a skull. Legulgolet, a skull, in the Kabbalah, also refers to the Keter. The Keter, a crown, is placed on a physical king's head, on the skull. So the Gulgolet in the Kabbalah is another term for the Keter. Beka, on one hand, means a coin, but Beka also means a beki'ah, to make an incision, to make a crack. Beka legulgolet, to make a crack into the Keter, okay? That's the idea of counting with the coins. The census of the Jews, on a positive vein, not to cause damage, not to cause destruction, not to cause death, when done through counting the coins, is of tremendous benefit. Take a look at Rashi. Let's take a look at Rashi in this week's Parsha. Okay, Rashi on the very first verse. The opening verse this week's Parsha Bamidbar reads like this. וידבר השם אל משה במדבר סיני באוהל מועד באחד לחודש השני בשנה השנית לצאתם מארץ מצרים לאמור. So the verse reads, and Hashem spoke to Moshe in the desert of Sinai, in the tent of meeting, on the first of the month of Iyar, the first of the second month, in the second year that they left Egypt, saying. So Rashi already jumps, because what he's going to say is to start counting. The next verse, he says, so I'll read the second verse even. Second verse, Se'u et rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael, v'mishpachotam leveit avotam, raise the head of the whole assembly of the children of Israel based on their families, according to their father's household, the houses of the fathers, b'mispar shemot, in the numbers of their names, kol zachar legulgolatam, each male according to his skull, a head count, miben esim shana v'amala, from 20 and up, kol yotzet tzava b'Yisrael, anyone who's capable to go out to the army, tifkedu otam letzivotam. Fine. I want to get to the point. Rashi on the first verse. Mitoch chibatan lefanav. What's the idea of the census here? Mitoch chibatan lefanav, because through Hashem's cherishing, Hashem's love of the Jews before Him, mone otam kol sha'ah. Hashem counts them literally kol sha'ah, at every time. It's not every time literally, but we see there's a few census of the Jews in the Torah. When the Jews left Egypt, Hashem counted them. The commentators and Rashi say, where was this? The verse that talks about in Parshat Bo, when the Jews actually began to leave Egypt, it says 600,000 ragli, levad mitaf v'nashim. That the Jews leaving Egypt were 600,000 men, besides, and adulthood means from age 20, obvious, besides the children and the women. That's when they left Egypt, they were counted. Or that Hashem counted them. The Torah actually tells us the number of the Jews leaving. Right? And then when the Jews, those who fell at the golden calf, who died, were killed at the sin of the golden calf, again Hashem took another census to count how many are left. The commentators explain this is found already in Parshat Truma, where the Adanim, the footholders of the pillars of the tabernacle, there were 2 on each pillar. That was the silver collected to make that was collected from the census of the Jews, and that silver, the coins were melted and made into those adanim, and that happened after the sin of the golden calf. Okay, this week's parasha, and when Hashem came to rest His divine presence on them, okay, betocham, and to be on them and amongst them, mina'am, Hashem counts them again. Where do you see that? Bechad b'Nisan hukama Mishkan. On the first of Nisan, which was a month earlier than this date, the Mishkan was erected, and that's when the divine presence rested. And 1 month later, Bechad b'Iyar mina'am. And on the first of Iyar, Hashem counted them. That's the counting at the time of the divine presence resting. The commentaries ask, why not count them on the first of Nisan also? If now the whole idea is that the divine presence is resting, so let the census be at the same time, if that's the point. So the commentary says something really amazing, that it takes 30 days fixed for a convincing format that the Shekhinah rests 30 days straight. So now you guys are considered that the Shekhinah is with you permanently. So that's why the counting only took 30 days later for the 30 days to pass. But what Rashi is pointing out here is the counting in this week's Parsha is for the divine presence. It's for the sake of the divine presence. That's why there's a count. In our context, the divine presence is basically allowing the infinite light to shine permanently. Believe it or not, the goal of the Mishkan and the Beit HaMikdash, and today after the destruction of the temples, still by the Jews learning Torah and davening in synagogues and study halls, which are considered miniature temples, okay, starting at that Nisan time, which is really the first of Iyar, 30 days later, the idea of having the divine presence rest on the Jewish people is enabling a strong, solid connection of the infinite light to the world through the Jewish people, through the Torah and mitzvah performance. That was the idea of the Mishkan, to have the divine presence rest permanently, even after being destroyed. Even at the first temple, second temple destroyed, still it's fixed now. Too bad. Until then, it was Hashem doing as a gift, a favor before the Torah was received, that there was a connection of the infinite light sustaining the world. Now that the Jewish people are in the world, now that there was a Mishkan and a temple, and they're destroyed, and we have Jewish people continuing to learn Torah and davening in shuls and in Torah centers, Torah study halls, so that allows the connection to be now continuing. We're responsible for the infinite light shining into the existence of the world. So the counting, he says here, on one hand, it's counting which is not good, right? Counting, Reb Noson explains, counting not through the shkalim coins is dangerous because it's death. It's separating from the infinite light. But when you're counting with tzedakah, shkalim, and Reb Noson explains, the shkalim went towards what? The shkalim of this counting in Parshat Bamidbar didn't go towards building the temple, because the temple was already built. The tabernacle was already built. The counting after the golden calf, that money went to help build the silver for the yesodot, foundations for the pillars of the tabernacle. The money the shkalim collected from this week's parsha went towards what's needed in the Beit HaMikdash, the sacrifices, the incense. Reb Noson says all that promotes joy, simchah. Their tzedakah went to promote simchah. So in this case, where you're counting, which is this world, but you're counting to a tzedakah, the half shekel coins that go towards simcha ideas, simcha mitzvot, the sacrifices, and B'ezrat Hashem, the Keter. So this allows for the worldliness. You counted them. That's not good. But we count them to tzedakah, a tzedakah of simcha, so that allows for the stability of the divine presence to be firmly connected to this world. That's the idea of Parshat Bamidbar. Now, the sages give a sign that always, an indication and a rule, that always Parshat Bamidbar is right before Shavuot. Shavuot is when we finish counting the Omer. We're also counting the days. The counting of the days is not necessarily like counting Jewish people. Counting the days to get to Shavuot is counting out of yearning. Like we have a countdown. We start on the first day of Pesach. We all receive a big light, an undeserved light that comes down above every Jew's level. That's the light of the Seder night, and it lasts until during the day. And during the first day of Pesach, begins to ebb away until the second night of Pesach. We start counting the countdown of the Sefirat HaOmer, starting from a barley, which is animal food sacrifice, a meal offering made of barley, with also animals associated with it. And then from that point, from that sacrifice on the second night of Pesach, we start the countdown to Shavuot. What's the countdown? We're waiting to receive the Torah every year. What's the idea of receiving Shavuot, the Torah, every year? We're seeking the idea of Shavuot on the 50th day after the 49 countdown of Sefirat HaOmer is also a representation of shining the light of the Keter. The Keter also, besides being number 10, there's a multiple of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 50 is a multiple of the Keter, of number 10. So it's considered also, it's a deep thing in the Kabbalah, why 50, why not 10? Why 5 times 10? That's a separate idea. But just note that the 50th level is considered the light of the Keter. Here, as a Jewish people till today, even without a temple, we count down to re-receive the Torah. What are we looking to re-receive? An ability of the Keter to shine into us greater levels of the infinite light through the Torah that we learn. To use the Torah that we learn all year round, that Hashem should channel through what we're learning. If it's Chumash, Tanakh, Mishnah, Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, Midrash, Zohar, Kabbalah, Chassidus, Musar, whatever Torah you're learning, that it should be a means that Hashem shines to you messages from the infinite realm, the infinite light, to you. That you're getting a message from God directly to wake you up. You're not just reading a dry, dead, chas shalom, God forbid, text, but you're reading a text that's infusing you with an emunah and a light that you need in order to survive and to face your challenges in your life. That's on a national level what we're counting down. They're counting the days. Counting, again, is not so good. That's why, by the way, Sefirat HaOmer is considered a dangerous time, a time of mourning, and it's not good to do things, they say. Rebbe Kiva's students, 24,000 students passed away, so we have many restrictions. Even if those who hold until Likutey Moharan or until Rosh Chodesh Sivan, still the Arizal says, for example, you should not get a haircut until right before Shavuot. The Rashash, by the way, just want to say, he said that if they wouldn't stop me, I would even continue into Shavuot not to get a haircut. There's deep things about the idea, the hair growing. Hair is not considered something holy. It's considered dinim. That's why we cut our hair, except for the parts of the payas and the beard. But the top head of a man should be trimmed, okay? Ideally, so letting it grow long is considered dinim, okay? Judgments. And our result teaches that's up to Shavuot, okay? So meaning it's a time of constrictions, of judgments. It's not such a pleasant time, the Sefirat HaOmer. It's difficult, okay? We had many restrictions of marriages and haircuts, like we said, and also listening to music and whatever, doing happy. It's not a time. It's time you have to be careful. You have to be very careful because that's why the students of Rabbi Kiva passed away. So it's a constriction. But yet we're counting it down. And in the countdown, we're yearning to get to Matan Torah. So what are we yearning? What are we yearning exactly? In Sefirat HaOmer, a lot of light is revealed when counting the Sefirah. It's a tiny mitzvah. All it takes is saying a blessing and counting the countdown. But when you're doing that, what's happening to your neshama is crazy. You have some nights where you can be truly inspired to say the Sefirat HaOmer, and other nights you feel so dead, you feel out of it, and you feel as if Hashem wants my countdown. What's it going to do? What's going to help me? This is the idea, the test of the Sefirat HaOmer, that through thick and thin, you're still holding on. Even though my deeds are so bad and they contradict what I want, but still I want to be a good Jew. I want to come closer to you. So Hashem, even though I have so many ups and downs, especially during the Sefirat HaOmer countdown, I have one day where I'm flying, another day, let's just do it already. Still, you're doing the countdown. And by holding on and counting all the days, so you get the goodies at the end, you get to the 50th level, which is Shavuot, and you're entitled to receive the light of the Keter B'ezrat Hashem. That's the idea of the countdown. So now, right before Shavuot, Parshat Bamidbar, where we're getting we're relearning the parsha of the census of the Jewish people, okay, where again the money of the shkalim went towards the Beit HaMikdash, the korbanot, the sacrifices, and the Torah, which are all happy events. So it's a countdown which is positive. All that to help us boost the final leg between Shabbat Bamidbar until Shavuot, to finally get the countdown done properly and to make it to the finish line, B'ezrat Hashem. So basically, the countdown, counting Jewish people, is in itself a negative thing, but when counted through the coins, the charity coins, and where especially the charity coins are going to a tzedakah, a very high tzedakah of simchah, so this joining of counting and doing this tzedakah of simcha enables also for connection that the Keter does between the infinite light and the finite existence, thus allowing the Keter to shine this light into our lives, and especially on receiving the Torah on Shavuot, where we are expected, and we expect, and we anticipate, and we hope, and we yearn that B'ezrat Hashem, the Torah we get, we learn after Shavuot, will be so enhanced with the light of the Keter, the infinite light, that we will find direct messages from anything we learn, what Hashem is trying to tell us, the message of love and closeness, and starting again, and seeing that every detail we do in our life has a worth, has a value. Every mitzvah we do, every good deed we do has a major worth, and the Torah should be the means to shine us this light. B'ezrat Hashem. Hope that was clear. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. B'ezrat Hashem.